Good evening. I'm Rohit Sharma and welcome to Desi From DC, coming to you every night from the heart of Washington. This is where America's power corridors meet India's prime time to break down the political, economic, and global stories that shapes both nations live from Washington, D.C. From Capitol Hill to Raisina Hill, we connect the dots between what happens here in Washington and how it echoes back home in India. We begin tonight with the big stories of the day. Shocking Epstein emails allege Trump knew about the girls. Social media slams embassy's double standards. Hundreds protest against Trump's son-in-law's property in Belgrade. Can Mamdani arrest Netanyahu in New York on January 1st? An anti-H1B crusader, Jim Fishback, launches bid for Florida. The House of Representatives may soon vote on whether to publicly release the remaining unclassified files tied to Epstein investigation. The procedural threshold was reached Tuesday after Representative Adelita Grijalva, a Democrat from Arizona, was sworn in as the 218th voting member, giving supporters of the disclosure effort enough signatures to force a floor vote through a discharge petition. The petition, which has gained bipartisan support in recent weeks, called on the Justice Department to hand over all unredacted materials related to Epstein's trafficking network and its subsequent investigations. Survivors group have pressed for a full release, saying it would bring transparency and closure. A Justice Department official has previously said that most of the relevant documents are already in public and the other that are remaining are sealed to protect victims' identities and privacy. The renewed attention follows the Oversight Committee's release of several previously unseen emails and communications, and those materials have fueled debate in Congress about the scope of redactions and the criteria used by federal agencies to withhold the names. At the White House, Press Secretary Karen Leavitt today described the committee's timing as political theater, emphasizing that the president believes in transparency, but also in respecting the rule of law in protecting victims.
Jeffrey Epstein was a member at Mar-a-Lago until President Trump kicked him out because Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and he was a creep. In this email you refer to with the name of a victim that was unredacted now and has since been reported on in this room, so I will go ahead and say it, Virginia Giuffre. And it was CBS's own reporting, Ouija, that recently wrote that Miss Giuffre maintained, and God rest her soul, that she maintained that there was nothing inappropriate she ever witnessed, that President Trump was always extremely professional and friendly to her. And so I think it's a question worth asking the Democrat Party, and you should all go ask them after this briefing, of why they chose to redact that name of a victim who has already publicly made statements about her relationship with Jeffrey Epstein and is unfortunately no longer with us.
President Trump, whose name has periodically appeared in some media coverage related to Epstein, has consistently said he had no connection to Epstein's activities. In 2019, President Trump told reporters, "I knew him like everybody in Palm Beach knew him. I had a falling out with him many years ago. I was not a fan." The anticipated House vote could take place in early December. If approved, the measure would move to the Senate for consideration, potentially setting the stage for the most comprehensive public accounting of Epstein-related records to date. Last Tuesday, voters created history in Virginia by electing Indian-American Muslim Senator Gazala Hashmi as its next lieutenant governor. Gazala, who ran on a more moderate platform, is the first Muslim woman to be elected statewide in the U.S. A short while ago, I spoke to Lieutenant Governor Gazala Hashmi and asked her about congratulatory messages she's received from India, including the one from Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu. And joining me now is the Lieutenant Governor-elect of the Commonwealth of Virginia. She created history as the first ever Muslim and South Asian Indian American to win a statewide election in American history. I was going to say Senator, but I have to get used to calling you as Lieutenant Governor-elect Gazala Hashmi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Delighted to be here.
First things first, have you seen messages back home in India? I mean, you've been wished by a lot of important people, including the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh, Chandrababu Naidu, who went on Twitter to wish you. I mean, how does that feel? I mean, and have you responded to any of one of them?
Well, thank you. Yes, it's been overwhelming. I've received in text messages alone over 600 messages, and then on every social media platform, as well as emails and letters. And so the global response has been truly humbling. I'm so very thankful to all of the individuals that have reached out, and especially those who are in elected office and officials themselves in India. And I'm trying to respond to everybody as quickly as I can.
Would you like to use this interview to say anything to the Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh? We'll make
Well,
sure it gets to him.
yes, thank you. And I just would like to thank the Chief Minister for his warm congratulations, for everything that he has shared. I have a tremendous fondness myself for Andhra Pradesh, for Hyderabad, and for the community that I grew up with. And so it's just really, again, as I said, humbling to have that outreach. And I certainly look forward to continuing collaboration. I think there's great potential for Virginia to continue its relationships with the Indian American community that we have here. And we know so many of our Indian American business owners are very much connected to enterprises back in India as well as in Virginia. And we want to ensure that we continue that thriving partnership.
Again, I'm not going to get used to it. A Lieutenant-elect, I was going to say Lieutenant-elect Senator, no. Lieutenant-elect Gazala Hashmi, thank you so much. We'll see you soon, hopefully at your inauguration. And, we hope you continue to do the hard work that you've always done in the state of Virginia.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
And to watch the entire interview, do subscribe to India Today Global's YouTube channel, and you can watch exclusive interview with Gazala Hashmi. In India, questions are being raised about how differently does the West respond to two terror events framed by the same foreign mission in New Delhi, India versus Islamabad, Pakistan. And the messaging the US Embassy has sparked a wave of criticism. A car exploded outside the historic Red Fort in New Delhi, killing more than 10 people. The very next day in Islamabad, a suicide bombing outside a court complex left similar casualties. But the difference in the official language has ignited debate. On its X account, the US Embassy in India posted, "Our thoughts and prayers are with the families of those who were lost in the terrible explosion in New Delhi last night. We wish a swift recovery to those who were injured." By contrast, the US Embassy in Pakistan responded quickly and forcefully on the attack that took place in Islamabad the very next day. The post said, "United States stands in solidarity with Pakistan in the struggle against terrorism. We condemn this attack and all forms of terrorism and remain committed to supporting the government of Pakistan's effort to ensure peace and stability in their nation." What's the difference here? Well, critics say that India's message lacked the words terrorism or terrorist attack and came a day later, while Pakistan's post by the mission in Pakistan, the US mission in Pakistan, was detailed, immediate, and included strong condemnation. Now, across social media in India, users cried foul, and one X user noted that it seems terror in India is viewed through a different prism than elsewhere. Others asked, why was the Delhi incident labeled a terrible explosion while Islamabad was clearly identified as terrorism? Analysts suggest part of the reason lies in the classification. Pakistan had already labeled its blast a terror act, and India, at the time of the message, had not formally done so. But critics argue that the optics are unmistakable, especially given evolving US ties with Pakistan under the current administration. The bottom line? Well, the tragedies hit, the language chosen by foreign diplomatic missions matters. In this case, the discrepancy has stirred diplomatic sensitivities and unleashed a public backlash in India. Tensions flare in Belgrade as hundreds march against a controversial property project tied to Donald Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner. The protests are drawing both local and international attention, sparking debates over urban development, gentrification, and foreign investment. Protesters argue that the project threatens to displace communities, raise living costs, and disrupt the city's cultural fabric. Activists are calling for transparency from developers and municipal authorities, warning that ignoring local voices could fuel wider unrest across the city. The demonstration included banners, chantings, and sit-ins at the project site showing organized resistance by residents, students, and civic groups. Social media of the protest has amplified message globally, drawing commentary from both political analysts and urban planners. City officials have stated that all legal procedures are being followed, but the protest underscores growing public scrutiny of foreign-backed developments. Experts say this is part of a broader debate over balancing economic growth with citizens' rights in European capitals. Our organizers plan to maintain pressure on authorities, aiming to halt or revise project plans. The protests reflect a larger movement advocating for community-centered urban development. As this story evolves, the world watches whether the civic action in Belgrade can influence policy and set a precedent for holding high-profile developers accountable. Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani is set to take office on January 1st, the very same day when Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has been invited to New York City by the Republican city councilor Inna Verinkov. The city braces for a tense showdown between local politics and international diplomacy, raising questions about law, power, and president. Here's a report by Farhan Khan.
New York City is gearing up for political theatre worthy of Broadway. And at the center of it all are two very unlikely co-stars, Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. So here's the setup. A Republican city councillor, Inna Verinkov, has invited Netanyahu to New York on January 1st, the very day Mamdani is sworn in as mayor. Why that day? Because Mamdani, a proud socialist and pro-Palestinian activist, has promised to arrest Netanyahu if he ever sets foot in the city. Yes, you heard that right. The incoming mayor wants to have the Israeli PM cuffed. Verinkov, a fierce Zionist, says Netanyahu's visit would reaffirm the deep and enduring bond between the US, Israel and New York City. In her invitation letter, she even took a swipe at Mamdani, calling him part of the vile rhetoric of unashamed Marxist radicals. Mamdani, for his part, says his threat isn't about showmanship, it's about justice. He's referring to the International Criminal Court's 2024 arrest warrant against Netanyahu and former Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. The ICC accuses them of war crimes in Gaza, specifically depriving civilians of essentials like food, water, and medicine. But here's the catch. The US doesn't recognize the ICC. So any warrant issued by it holds no legal power in America. That means even if Mamdani wanted to send in the NYPD, he simply can't. Federal law and diplomatic immunity would block any attempt to arrest a sitting foreign leader. Still, Mamdani isn't backing down. In multiple interviews, he said he plans to fulfill his promise and that this is a moment for cities, not Washington, to stand up for their values. His critics, though, are calling him delusional. Former State Assemblyman Dov Hikind bluntly said Mamdani is going to find out he's not the king. Netanyahu, for his part, hasn't reacted directly, but with Republican allies like Verinkov backing him, it's safe to say he's not losing sleep over it. So if Netanyahu really does land in New York on January 1st, which is not really gonna happen, don't expect handcuffs. Expect headlines, protests, and one very awkward mayoral swearing in. With Farhan Khan, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Violence broke out at UC Berkeley as Turning Point USA events spiraled into chaos between protesters and attendees, raising serious questions about campus security and political tensions on college campuses. The nationwide This Is the Turning Point tour, featuring comedian Rob Schneider and author Dr. Frank Turek, descended into chaos Monday night near Bancroft Way, as hundreds of students and demonstrators confronted event goers. Videos show protesters, some wearing kaifas and waving signs reading, "No safe space for fascist scum," clashing with police in riot gear. Officers from Berkeley Police Department, California Highway Patrol, and campus security were seen donning shields and batons to control the volatile crowd. At one point, panic erupted when passing cars sounded like gunfire, sending dozens diving for cover behind the barricades. Witnesses told local media that tensions had been rising since the afternoon, with demonstrators chanting slogans including "No Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA," signaling deep polarization and anger over the controversial event. The FBI has now launched an investigation examining the clashes for potential political violence, threats to public safety, and security lapses. Authorities are reviewing video footage and social media posts to determine if criminal charges will be filed. As UC Berkeley and law enforcement assess the fallout, questions remain about how political activism and protests can coexist safely at major college events. Anti-H-1B crusader and largely unknown businessman to Floridans, James Fishback, announced via a news story today that he will be launching his primary campaign next Monday against Byron Donalds, a candidate already endorsed by President Trump. In a story published on Politico, Fishback said the old DC guard does not want him to run and stated that his stance on H-1B could be the reason. Fishback, founder of the Miami-based investment firm Azoria, tweeted recently, "Ban H-1Bs, stop Blackstone from buying our homes, and end property taxes." But his campaign message has not gone unchallenged. James Blair, White House Deputy Chief of Staff and senior Trump advisor, took to social media to accuse Fishback of lying about a private conversation referenced in a Politico article. Blair wrote on X, also a lie. "I called you yesterday and asked you why you lied to Politico about our conversation. You promised you'd keep all conversations private." Adding to criticism, conservative commentator Alex Brutsevitz, whose name also appeared in the story, questioned Fishback's anti-H-1B stance, pointing out his investments in companies that use H-1B workers. He stated that Fishback did not have views on H-1B issue as recently as September 5th of this year. He called Fisher an opportunist using anti-H-1B sentiment to gain online popularity and come across as someone who genuinely cared for people in Florida. Brutsevitz called Fishback's campaign not organic and questioned the timing and authenticity of his political surge. Meanwhile, Byron Donald, President Trump's endorsed candidate, has maintained a lower profile on the dispute, instead emphasizing GOP unity and experience as the party heads into August 2026 primary. As the world bids farewell to a true icon of wildlife conservation, thousands gathered at the Washington National Cathedral for the funeral service of Dr. Jane Goodall, the legendary primatologist whose groundbreaking work transformed how we understand and protect our planet. Tributes poured in from across the globe, including heartfelt words from Anna Rathman, Executive Director of the Jane Goodall Institute, and Hollywood star Leonardo DiCaprio.
Jane was never the loudest in the room. In fact, quite the opposite. But her powerful message spoke volumes.
When most of us think about environmental issues, we tend to dwell on destruction and loss. And I'll admit it's something I've always struggled with myself. But Jane led with hope. Always. Most people knew her as Jane Goodall, the icon, the legend. But the Jane I was fortunate enough to get to know was gentle, curious, funny, witty, and absolutely unstoppable.
And that wraps up tonight's edition of Desi from DC. This is Rohit Sharma for India Today Global. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button before you leave. Stay tuned, stay informed, and as always, stay curious.